As we begin the presentation, there are a number of lenses I'd like to have you look at the information I'll be presenting through, a number of lenses that you can help put in perspective the information and the direction that we're heading. One of our first lenses, as you know, we are a Covey district. It was one of the main attractors for me when I applied as superintendent now a year and a half ago. So let's review those quickly so you can contemplate, is Dr. Thoenes living by these principles when he leads and learns? Being proactive, beginning with the end in mind, putting first things first, thinking win-win, seeking first to understand, then be understood, synergizing, and then finally sharpening the saw. A key part of our mission at the district, next slide, there we go. Our mission, which is always guiding our decision-making at the board and leadership level, is to serve our community by supporting, inspiring, and challenging every person within the school district to reach their full potential through education. Our vision for the district is to be an educational community where every person is empowered to reach their full potential. So our mission guides decision-making, and then our vision is how we want to kind of end up. Beyond that, we have a leadership vision, which I introduced last year and worded with our leadership team, to work always with any constituent, whoever that is, positively, collaboratively, and synergistically to make decisions that are best for the organization. Bottom line, for me as superintendent, it's not about being right, it's about getting it right. And I always point that out to who I work with so that it takes the ego out of our decision-making and our conversations and really focuses on best practice and putting in place steps and decisions that are going to be ultimately beneficial. So, I want to remind you about the 5 board strategic or organizational goals. The 5 are the following. We have an academic goal, and to summarize it, it's to provide a predictable and aligned curriculum. Ultimately, when we're educating students, we have to have that curriculum, and I thank Assistant Superintendent Jill Ansel for her continually strong leadership in that regard. I'm going to steal a little bit from Jason Hayes. Jason, you're not here right now, but maybe you'll see the video later. I stole the idea of culture from you, so thank you. That's obviously a compliment to you. So develop a positive school culture here at the school. It really is in the district. It really is a focus. We have positive culture. How are we going to continue to build and expand that culture? Next, operations. The board is always looking for how we are modernizing and upgrading our facilities. And you'll hear a lot about that today in today's presentation. Major focus is on our facilities. Next, personnel. Recruit and retain top professionals. That's been a focal point since arriving, and when I renamed Jill's position as Assistant Superintendent, she was doing human resource work and personnel work, not really being recognized for that in terms of her title and role. In her new role, that is definitely a focal point for her and for the district. And finally, communications, promoting the district and attracting new families. This is part of that communication strategy. When I arrived last year, we put together a communication plan for the board and district. We've been focusing on that ever since. And I'm a tireless and unapologetic promoter of the district, that is for sure. Okay, so speaking of promoting and celebrating, the next focal point of today's State of the District address is on what we've done over the last year collaboratively at our buildings. So I asked each of the building administrators to send me their top 2 or 3 celebrations, and typical, they had more to celebrate than 2 or 3. So I had to pick from sometimes a list of 7 or 8 top celebrations from each building and cull it down to the list that you're going to see here. So SELA, their top celebrations they sent was they had a 94% attendance rate at the fall parent-teacher conferences. Has there been a lot of interest generated by that program? We were very pleased. And in its first attempt at being rated, there were 4 stars out of 5. There was a reapplication process to making improvements based on that feedback, and they're hoping to get a 5-star rating in April. If you recall, Last year, there wasn't a SELA at this time. I announced the idea of SELA at the speech last year, the State of the District Address. For that to occur, and then to occur so successfully in that short a time span, is a tribute to the full district, but also the personnel in charge of that program. And they're deepening and developing ongoing relationships with the following educational entities. All these names should be familiar to you. KRESA, the Kalamazoo County Ready Fours. We have a nice connection there with Dr. Thoenes, our former superintendent. Western Michigan University, the Confucius Institute, which is affiliated with WMU, and the Comstock Township Library. The elementary school also announced last year at this time that we're going to reconfigure and create Comstock Elementary School. North and Green Meadow coming together and coalescing into a new school at the beginning of the year and accomplishing that in time to open the doors was a major accomplishment and a celebration. They've also implemented the Ready Classroom materials for math with fidelity, and to the extent the company has asked the elementary school teachers to be a model for other districts, which has already happened. They've been sending teachers to our building to see our teachers implement this material. Congratulations. The elementary school was also awarded a $15,000 grant from the Michigan Council of Arts and Cultural Affairs. This grant has allowed 4 different 8-week units preparing students to be engaged with various forms of art, either visual or performing. If students don't know these art forms exist, they can't engage in them as teenagers or adults. So this exposure has been critical, and I'm super proud, and the whole building is, of that effort. And Sean McMeekin, I saw him here, he was the one who applied for that grant. Thank you, Sean. And the majority of the elementary school classrooms have been reorganized to encourage student choice during independent reading. That's been a major focus this year, getting books into kids' hands. So congratulations to the elementary school for their achievements. The STEM Academy, once again, 2 for 2, and last 3 of the last 5 years has been a national finalist in the state champion, for the Samsung Solve for Tomorrow contest. 2 of those times, the last 2 years, they have been national finalists. In that time period, we've been awarded $35,000 from Samsung for our program. So congratulations to Chris Chop, principal, and his leadership at that. The STEM Academy Science Olympiad team made the state tournament in both 2018 and 19. And the 93% of STEM 8th graders achieved or met or exceeded the benchmarks for the evidence-based reading and writing on the PSAT last spring. Congratulations. And finally, at 94.9 on the school index rating from the Michigan Department of Education, STEM is the highest scoring school in all of Kalamazoo County. So congratulations. The middle school. Middle school didn't exist again last year when we met. It existed in a different form, I guess you could say. It's transformed and reconfigured from NEMS into Comstock Middle School before the start of the school year, also a tremendous achievement. They have recently mounted what are called Big Rock boards. I had that in recent celebrations, where they're mimicking the high school's Big Rock boards, which are part of the Covey philosophy. So that students now are empowered and being empowered by the staff to know what academic expectations there are for them, and therefore you can meet what you know you're supposed to try to strive for. Also, really excited about Cindy Bloom, who I saw here. Cindy Bloom last year being named a National Geographic Fellow and celebrated her international journey as she went to various countries. I couldn't remember all of them: Norway, United Kingdom, Wales, Scotland, Ireland. Am I about right, Cindy? Where are you? Is that about right? Okay, thumbs up. And then also very excited that the school implemented a 7-period day, allowing staff significantly more time to increase intervention periods and electives throughout the day to meet the needs of our kids. Outstanding effort there. Compass High School had a list that I had to shorten, but that's how proud they were of their accomplishments this past year. Very excited, and I was personally witness to the convening of their grand opening of the Compass Library. The alternative school up to now historically never had a library. So, in a big literacy effort, the collaboration from both the local library and teachers on staff, as well as Jay, were able to get donated furniture from the library and had a huge opening event on December 20th. please take the moment, even if you don't work or come near the central office, come over just to see that library. You'll be pleased and astonished. We're continuing to collect books for that facility. Also, programs and initiatives started this past year. Bear with the list. Man and Humble Partnerships, the Giving Christmas Tree, had a book club they formed and we supported. Thanksgiving dinners for families, Christmas family adoption, free donation table for clothes and food, and women from, and they were women, but old women from a care home knitted hats and caps and put it on the tree, and kids can buy and get hats and gloves. It was super special of them to do that. And then also students taking pride by painting murals in the building at the school, really transforming how the building feels as you walk down through the hallways. Thousands of dollars were donated to Compass High School last year for the following purposes. Books for students. Students were able to go and choose their own books at a book fair. Attendance incentives, new furniture, Jimi Hendrix concert tickets. I'm assuming not the real Jimi Hendrix, but someone who must have been a performer that looked and played like him. Is that right, Jay?
That is correct.
Okay. Field trips to Kalamazoo Valley Community College. Guitar club. How cool to get kids involved with music. Music touches so many people in so many ways and is a great educator. They have a guitar club because our principal, Jay, plays guitar. Detroit Pistons and Tiger tickets. In fact, this Friday they're taking a group of students who are students of the month to the Detroit Pistons game, and they're really jazzed up about that. Clothes, food, bus tokens, Roller World tickets, and YMCA and YWCA memberships. Outstanding effort to make all that come together. And when kids get the message that someone cares about them, they start to care about themselves if that's an area for growth. And it resulted in an increase in the graduation rate. All these efforts did at Compass by 17%, graduating 40 students this last year. I just imagine if Compass didn't exist, 40 students whose lives would have gone who knows what direction. So thank you, Jay, and your staff for your outstanding effort. The high school, creation and implementation of a Star Teacher Award. This was really cool when I read it. I haven't seen it yet in action, but I'm looking forward to hearing more about it. Student-driven. Students are given the opportunity to nominate a teacher who has made a difference or impacted them positively. The teacher is selected each week and recognized with a process of certificate and a token of appreciation. They expanded partnerships at the school. They have now created internships with SELA, because SELA now exists. They're sending high school students to SELA to help connect and work with that program. Growing interest, hopefully, in future educators. How clever. Comstock Virtual Academy has expanded their offerings because we now have a virtual program that's dedicated to growth. They're seeing links and connections with students at the high school with those opportunities. And also they've connected with the elementary school with regards to such events as Trunk or Treat and other kind of collaborative efforts. The next bullet was that 41 high school students earned some type of college credit through dual enrollment, early and middle college, employment for the arts, or education for the arts. EFE is education for employment. Those 41 students earned 264 KVCC credits. That is a tremendous head start to getting a post-secondary degree, valued at over $35,000. When we have a population we're serving that struggles financially, to have students get ahead of their post-secondary education and do it for free is a tremendous achievement for the district and for the high school in particular. Now on to what I call our divisions or our departments. Athletics. Justin came to me, Justin Anthony, athletic director, and talking about implementing a no pass, no play, what I supported. I said absolutely, hands down. When I was in Ohio, I know for some people, Ohio, okay, but I lived in Ohio for 6 years. The whole state mandate was no pass, no play. When I came here and found out that Michigan's High School Athletic Association had a different standard, I've been trying to find ways to raise it ever since. And I commend him for thinking that if we're trying to raise expectations for rigor, what a great way to do it. The research is really clear how kids that are involved with athletics connect to the school and create a positive dynamic and do well. So if we raise the level of expectations, I know from my experience as a teacher working with people that people will meet that level of expectation. You all know that to be true too. Thank you, Justin. Elimination of the athletic participation fee we did last year. We've seen participation up in some sports by as much as 20%. Not only are we getting more kids to stay on the teams, or take part in the teams, then they're benefiting from all of the research from being on a team. So increasing, like we hoped, remove the barrier of the fee and people will get involved, and that's what's happening. Also, popular transport vans have saved the district to this time, only within about 6 months of use, $8,000 in the first semester. Justin has taken that on. I didn't direct him to be the manager of those vans. He came to me and said, I think it's best that I could do it. I loved that when he said that, and he's been doing it ever since. So I asked him, I said, please track how much money you estimate you'll be saving with those vans. And at this point, he's keeping a log, and it's up to $8,000. And that was about a week ago or 2 weeks ago. When I asked him, it's probably up since then. Thank you for doing that, Justin. And we've added district-sponsored athletic teams, boys and girls varsity bowling, which at one point had 30-some kids on it. It's not the case anymore, but we've created a JV bowling team because there were so many kids bowling. Isn't that great? Boys and girls middle school soccer and boys and girls middle school cross country. Those programs no longer have to go around, get a coach to parent, volunteer for a year or two. They're now sponsored. It creates some stability. You can build programs and success. Curriculum-wise, there's been an effort district-wide on the essential literacy practice number 3, ensuring learning environment reflecting a strong commitment to literacy. And you've heard a lot about literacy already from me in today's presentation. All students receive their own books of their own choice at book fairs. There was enough money that we were able to sponsor book fairs and then have every kid choose 1 or 2 books that they then owned and took home. They did not have to pay for. Huge success with that across the whole district. Also, thanks to Dave Kramer, we now have book gardens that we're just at this point finalizing these free little book stands or little libraries, or however you want to call them, that are going to be mounted and placed outside. Some buildings already have them, but now every building will, again, promoting literacy. If kids can get their hands on books, they'll be reading. And then classroom libraries and media center collections enhanced through the founding of the Compass Library, as previously mentioned. They're donating their books to us. We're then getting them out to the kids through our library or through the free donations through the little library books. Facilities department. Since July 1st, so not even a full year, they have completed 883 work orders and 15 preventative maintenance projects, and there are 3 of them doing the work. They're all 3 here today. Thank you, gentlemen, for your tremendous professionalism and effort. I never have to worry about are they working on something. It's always, where are they? I'm trying to track them down and they're off doing some project. Outstanding. A good portion of these work orders I just mentioned were not a 1-day, 1-minute fix. They took several days to accomplish. We're extremely proud of our facilities crew. Special education department, they implemented a very important shift in thinking, and it's all research-based, to go to what they call an 80-20 model. 80% of the instruction to be in the regular general education classroom, and 20% of it possibly in pull-out programs. Research-based, new idea, it's new to us, and we're really supporting it, and we're already seeing huge benefits. Thank you, Brian Deller, our special ed director, for that. IEP days. This was really clever when I heard about it. Totally love the idea. Rather than having IEP days spread throughout the year or days, like what I did when I was a high school principal, and you're attending numerous meetings and trying to attract people to these meetings and get them during the day. They schedule them all on one day. They get substitutes. The teachers come in and go. Everyone's able to attend. It's during the day. It works. Parents like it. Kids like it. The adults like it. It works. So congratulations for the vision to make that happen. And also importantly, they've been building and enhancing our transition days. The transition days are when we have a student on an IEP or a 504, and they're transitioning from one building to the other. So now from one elementary to the middle, and our middle school to the high school, it's really important, if we're trying to help that student shift and move, that the professionals that are sending and receiving have an opportunity to sit down and work together and collaborate and discuss and figure out what is the right accommodation as the child gets older. Oftentimes I've been in systems where they don't have those conversations. What worked in elementary is passed on, doesn't work anymore, and it's a whole figure out the process from the beginning again for the secondary teachers. So it's a very important transition piece, and I commend the special ed department for their work to make it happen. Finally, with technology. Technology, over the summer, I have to admit, I was not aware. I knew they were working hard, but I didn't know to what extent. The tech crew moved just under 5,000 hardware pieces and reconfigured 20,570 different users across the district as we moved from building to building to make it work. Outstanding. They also added an online enrollment capability for Infinite Campus, allowing families to improve and streamline the process for allowing our staff to streamline the process for families coming in and being enrolled. And they've implemented what we're calling the Clever system, and that's a trademark name, it's an auto-sync for an online instructional products that helps staff manage logins in a much easier fashion. So thanks for the technology department for their vision to make that happen as well. I'd like to now shift to what I'm calling our bond update. The bond update is a major focus of the energies of the central office, myself, a number of other people, each building administrator, they have teams. I commend and thank all of you. There are too many to name right now, you know who you are, but thank you for anyone who's contributed to our bond planning. It is where this district is going to get the biggest bang from our buck in the future as we rebuild and renovate our facilities. So I would like to highlight first what has been completed this past year. As you know, as you walked into here today, there's a new high school access loop with a gate. The gate is activated by what's the little gizmo called? Card reader, but you're
key fob.
Key fob, thank you. The key fob. You can pull up, protects cars from going back like they did in the past, smooth out the whole back access area. I had a lot of photographs of that project in our celebrations, but it is a tremendous improvement. We also, I'm very pleased that we invested in improving the atmospheric compass by recarpeting 8 rooms. That is the first of many recarpeting efforts. And if you want to see what the resilient carpeting is like, we decided to invest in carpeting that literally, when we went to a local district that had it installed, I was asked by the sales technician to pull out a Sharpie permanent magic marker. She said, mark it on the floor, and I'm inside another district's building. I'm marking on their carpeting. She said, now take this rag with rubbing alcohol, wipe it over your mark, and it was gone, like it was never there. It doesn't wear out, it doesn't get scratched. If it does somehow get burned or some chemical is dropped on it, they're in squares or in planks, so you can pull out the plank and you don't have to have the spot or the stain there for years to come. So it is the best carpeting for our students and staff, and we deserve to have facilities that meet modern standards. That is the modern standard for flooring, and we're going to have lots more of it. So if you want to see what it's like, please come over to Compass and take a look. We also had the relocation and installation of 5 portables at STEM. This was no easy task, and we were all kind of breathing a little nervously because it had taken so long, this company that we worked with, to get them installed properly at the elementary school. Sean, Facilities Director Sean Gillette, wisely shifted companies, and it was the difference. They were all installed very professionally, very properly, and we now have them working. Relocation installation of the playground at the elementary school and at SELA has been a major boon. If we're going to move buildings, we have to have an area for those kids to play, and it is now a model playground. My hairdresser, her child goes to a local parochial school, but they play our kids in volleyball. Well, when she found out that we're going to play last year at NEMS, it's the same building, so I just told her it's the same building as now the elementary school. Next time she cut my hair, she couldn't stop talking about when her child, who was a 7th grader, pulled up and saw the playground. She wanted to go over and play on our playground because it was so amazing at the elementary school. So, just a little anecdote there. And also just a variety of projects directly related to the reconfiguration. Too many to name, but we just had a lot to do to make it work, and I was really proud of our effort collectively to make it happen. Now, I am going to go through now and show you, I'm very excited to do this, artist renderings and what is going to be happening now in the future. So now you've heard what we did with our bond money, now you're going to see what we are doing. Thanks again for the teams that put these plans together. But these are a number of renderings. First, we'll do the elementary school. This is what a typical classroom will look like in the future. Obviously, they're not ghost people, but that's how you can see what they look like if they have the person there, opaquely. You couldn't see necessarily the facility. Here's what hallways will look like. Hallways will have benches where parents can wait with kids or kids can talk with teachers. Allows for socialization. Sound barriers as well, or sound absorbers. This is another classroom entrance areas. Again, the resilient carpeting, new block walls. It is fair to say the building is being gutted. It is literally being torn apart from the inside in phases. Cubbies along here on the side with classrooms, whiteboards, bullet boards, open spaces. This will be really great to see. Cafeteria lunchroom with sound absorbing material. This is basically how it will look. It just looks so nice to be renovated and modernized with new lighting. What is this wall here is currently not in existence. It'll be a wall that will block off or create a hallway. Right now, when you walk from the elementary down to the gymnasium, you walk in the cafeteria. In the future, this wall will set that part off. So the cafeteria will be slightly smaller, but it will allow for less disruption of both people coming to and from those areas as well as in the cafeteria. Another shot of the cafeteria as it will look. Very excited by that. Serving area. So, what you're looking at now is the floor plan of the upper part of the building. Anytime you see color in the next drawings or rendering, artist renderings, those are all rooms that have been touched or modified in some way. So if you see white areas like this, these bathrooms were remodeled in the first phase. They're not being remodeled now, so they are left white to indicate that they are not being touched. So you can see that all of these rooms now are going to be remodeled and brand new like you just saw. What's critically important, so you should know if you've not been in the former NEMS, the Nat Elementary, there used to be interior rooms with no outside windows. Those are all gone. All of these rooms will have natural lighting and access to windows. These are now intervention and office areas that will be used. Again, bathrooms here. And we are eliminating one stairwell to allow for less students coming up and forth. So that'll allow for a speech classroom, a speech special education classroom. So there'll be 3 stairways instead of 4. You can see the substantial change to the floor plan of the first floor. The way Susan has envisioned it, and we've worked with her to figure out what goes where. Here is your first grade wing, 1, 2, 3, 4 classrooms. Young 5s, we are large enough to have one of the largest Young 5 programs in the county. We have 2 sections. We have a kindergarten classes here along this wall. And then over here are the 2nd grade and 3rd grade wings. These are now going to be offices for intervention and for personnel. This is going to be another speech classroom. Again, common areas where people can go to have interventions and support kids. This is the remodeled cafeteria you saw. This is the serving area. People will come in here, come through, and then come into this area here. So the serving area is going to be remodeled. There's going to be a new teacher's lounge, again with 3 offices here. This is the current remodeled office, which is why it's showing as white, because it's been done already in phase 1. Over here, you can see the gymnasium is untouched, but these are new bathrooms. Because of once you touch an older building, you lose your grandfather status. So anytime that you touch an old building like this, you now have to bring it up to code. So we didn't have enough bathrooms for the amount of gym space that we had in the gym. So these areas now are large, multi-use bathrooms with multiple stalls, boys and girls. That was required to add. We're adding these rooms here: cognitively impaired room, a special education room, an art room, a tech office, storage. This is a music room, and then this is a multi-purpose room which can be used for any number of activities, events, concerts, recitals, presentations, you name it. And then these are the locker rooms that exist currently, and this is again the gym. Substantial change. Carpeting and flooring, all here will be the resilient carpeting, as well as in rooms. And flooring and ceiling will be redone as well. It will be a new school. It will feel that way as soon as you walk in, just like the offices we go into now feel and look new. We're very excited about what this will do with our elementary school. Also, fully air conditioned. That was one of my requirements. Our teachers and staff deserve to have buildings that meet modern standards. I've said it already in this presentation, and I'll say it again. When these buildings were built 50 and 60 years ago, it's a general time frame, that was not standard for buildings in Michigan. To have a school now, you have to. So if we're especially going to use this building potentially year-round, it's critical that we have a building that can be acclimated year-round as well. Okay, thank you. Next slide. This is the middle school. Now you can see, again, white, meaning most of these rooms or areas are not being touched in this second phase of the construction. But these rooms are. These are going to be remodeled science rooms, 1, 2, and 3. This is going to be a science storage room because science teachers typically collect and have a need for lots of materials. So this will be an additional science storage area on top of their large numbers of cupboards and storage areas in their rooms. This is a PE storage. This is going to be, and you'll see, I have artist renderings of this, you'll see in a moment, but the gymnasium is going to be here. It's currently not in existence. So this building phase begins in April and May of this year, in a few months, because there isn't the need to deal with where kids are going to be. So these phases that connect to the building will be done over the summer when kids aren't in the building. We estimate this will begin in April and be done by about November, so that means I'm going to say December or January. We're very excited by that. These are PE lockers here, PE storage and office here, and then more storage. There's also a spirit shop or concession stand here, and then this is coaches' storage for the different sports that are going to be competing in terms of coaching athletic teams here as well. So let's go to the artist renderings. So to place yourself where you're at now, this is the side of the building. There are 3 important phases of this project. One is a hard metal siding will be placed on the building. There's also the remodeling of the science rooms and the addition of the gym. Those are the 3 phases I'm kind of counting. So this is the current building now where we have our really attractive sign that Jason Hall, our communication specialist, designed. So to orient yourself, this is where you'd walk along the sidewalk here, come down through here, and here's the current front office. Does that help? So this is all remodeled in terms of this siding. All remodeled. This is currently the entrance to the gym from the side, and these are the 2 windows if you're coming up to it. So we'll have a large gym that will encompass this space over here. As you're coming in, currently the shed is about right here. That shed will be taken out as part of this project, and we have storage in other locations now for that. But you can see the large storage here with windows. Apparently now you have to have so much natural lighting in gyms. So we'll have lighting up here. The entrance will come here. You can see grass area. We have a nice little entrance design focus for this. Here's the current side door and the 2 windows. Now, coming in closer, we're right at the corner of the facility. This is facing north. This is the north face here. So this is where their entrance will be. You saw earlier, this is where the shed is to kind of orient yourself as we're kind of coming around. It is going to say something like Go Colts or Colts on the side of the windows as part of the window facing. And this is coming now to the front entrance of the gym. This is looking back out where we just came in. Here's the wooden doors that go into the gym, which we're going to go to momentarily. Here's our seahorse logo to orient yourself. As you come in, you look at the seahorse. About right here is where the concession stand is going to be. Here's the looking at it now straight on. So the doors we just came out of are about right over here behind us. So we come up. Here are the bathrooms for both men and women or boys and girls. This is the corridor that leads down to the school that connects to the school where the PE storage and the other areas are. And then this is the spirit shop concession stand area. So the doorway to our left, we just walked through. Here's the doorway we just came out of. It came all the way across to the far side. We're looking back with our back this way toward the facility. We're not certain it'll say Colt Pride, but we will say Colts or Comstock or whatever. That's still to be decided. But you're going to have a gym on one side. This is what it'll look like tucked up. These are when they're expanded, so there are 3 sections. There is not fan section on this side. This is where the coaching and the teams will sit during the games. So this is our facility. It is designed to be a high school level size facility. So it'll have the large court, it'll have the 2 cross courts, plus a volleyball court. So this is obviously in the stand looking down at it. Okay? So besides those, the estimated cost of the elementary remodeling is at this point $12,800,000. The middle school gym and science wings and paneling project is at this point about $6 million. Again, I don't think I mentioned the time frame for the elementary is June of 2020. The first day kids are out of the building. I'm going to say it's a 2-year project. The architects and construction managers have said less than that, but I'm just going to be a little more conservative in terms of my time frame. I'm going to say it's a 2-year project. So, continuing with future projects, the high school has a fire alarm system that will be totally rebuilt this summer. We're looking forward to that. And I'll mention this later in my presentation, if the bond that we're looking to pass in 2020 passes, we will add the following to STEM. STEM will have a new cafeteria, gymnasium, and middle school wing, which is desperately needed. The portables I mentioned earlier that came from the elementary school are part of STEM's middle school programming, and it's being used in many ways, but that is to accommodate the growth at STEM. That is not a long-term plan for the district. The long-term plan is to make that building larger in terms of its capacity. So new cafeteria, gymnasium, and middle school wing. SELA, campus, and administrative buildings, we will wait to plan those projects if or when that bond money passes, but obviously we will have input from committees from those schools to make sure we're putting in whatever is needed. Our sinking fund update. We have such thankfulness. I am so thankful for our community for their passing and support of the sinking fund this past May. It is going to be critical. So a sinking fund, just so you know, is an amount of money dedicated to repairing and renovating your facility. It can't be used for much anything else. There are some stipulations for safety and so technology and other parts, but it is primarily for the projects you're going to see now. So the STEM parking lot was our first effort. The STEM parking lot was by far away the worst we have in the district, and I have pictures of the STEM parking lot in our celebration so you know how beautiful that is. Transportation, just this last week, we put a new gas pump in. The old gas pump literally gave out, and so we're pleased that came from that. In the past, we probably would not have put a parking lot in at STEM because it would have been hard to save $160,000 for a new lot. A pump was $8,000. Okay, let's figure out what we have to cut to put this pump in, and so I have to go to somebody and say, your program is being cut, or we're eliminating this. That lose mentality is over. With our sinking fund, we now simply say $500,000 a year, $8,000 for a pump, no trauma or drama for our programs. We're able to get the pump we need and maintain and build our programs without any kind of sideways path ahead. Outstanding that we have that ability, and we're thankful for our public for that. Also pending, this summer, this January, these are all happening as soon as Sean tells me he can roll them out, and I just let him tell me, he just moves so fast. In January and February, just outside these hallways here, we're going to be redoing our public bathrooms. They're sorely in need of renovation, so that is starting up on the next week, I believe. Sue, is that right, next week? Yep. Next week, love it. Middle school, we're going to have the building fully recarpeted. The carpeting in the building is less than it should be, putting it mildly. So we're very pleased that we're going to be investing in recarpeting the entire building. So that is why I didn't mention it earlier, because it's a sinking fund cost. So the building will have the outside redone with the metal paneling and recarpeted, and the new science wings or rooms, and the new gymnasium. But the carpeting will be done this summer. STEM is going to have the exterior metal paneling on the library. The library has a large metal paneling that goes around it, and it's been aged and it's come loose, and the plywood beneath it has been weathered, so those are coming off and being replaced. The high school, the renovation of the faculty bathrooms. They were not renovated when the bathrooms were renovated in the first phase. I just know they need to be done. I had Sean Gillette go over there recently to look at those. He agrees they need a full renovation, so I'm very pleased. If you're a high school teacher, please pass on the word. Those faculty bathrooms are going to be renovated as early as this summer. And we're also going to be removing and disposing of the parking bollards. I'm learning lots of terminology from Sean. A bollard are these old, antiquated wooden structures that look like little spikes coming out of the ground with wires that connect, and you're supposed to not roll over them when you park. They're ready to go. So we're looking forward to having Sean and his crew pull those out or cut those off, or however he decides it's best. That'll really make a nice facelift for our facility here at the high school. And then doors, windows, ceilings, sidewalks, roofing, and flooring. As Sean says to me, I'd like to do this, I'd like to do that. He knows I'm going to say, go for it. So we're looking forward to our sinking fund and what it'll show for our district. People want to attend schools that look and feel physically fit. Future elections. I want to talk about what's ahead because in Michigan, the system is one where voters continually have options about whether to support or not schools. I'm urging you to consider the latter. The latter, correct. Kalamazoo County this May has an enhancement renewal. This has been passed for the last 6 sessions or 5 sessions, so the last 15 to 18 years. Don't quote me exactly, but I know it's been at least 15 years. And this brings in $380 per student. Kalamazoo County was the very first county that passed this enhancement millage when it became law about 15 to 18 years ago, and we maintained it ever since. However, if the voters say, no, we're not going to vote for it this time, then the district would need to cut $700,000. We get about $380 per kid, about 1,840 kids. It comes out to about round numbers, $700,000. We'd have to cut that amount before the start of school. That election is in May. We're hoping that the election carries. In the past, it's been carried by as much as 70%, but nothing's ever sure. But what's sure is how damaging it would be not to receive that money. So I'm urging you to consider going to the polls on May 5th, Tuesday, May 5th. Also looking down the road ahead, I announced this last year when I announced the 10-year plan, the no tax increase bond. Sometime in 2022, our bond accountant, has told us that we will be eligible again. Our debt will have been paid off for our bonds, and we can go back to our voters and ask for another bond that would not increase their taxes, not 1 cent. That bond would raise approximately $21 million by the financial estimates of our bond accountant. We would use those funds, as I mentioned earlier, with the STEM, gymnasium, new wing for the middle school, cafeteria, and we use it for the other buildings as well. I consider this part 2 of our 10-year phase, 10-year plan. So we're looking forward to bringing about that happening and informing our voters of why it's so critical that we continue to get their support, which is why every time we do something, we are letting our public know. We are now on our website, we have a sinking fund link where people can go, and we're keeping like a log of all the sinking fund projects, and people can go and refer back, so that later on when we go for a sinking fund renewal 10 years from now, it's not, what did we do? We better get that organized and get it to our public. There will be a log publicly of all of our projects and their costs and the benefits all the way through this process. So please begin talking to your friends and neighbors about these future elections. May 2020, the enhancement millage, and sometime in 2022, another bond. I do want to turn our attention now to our financial status. And I have some points I'd like to talk to you about. For a number of varying reasons this past year, our fund equity, which is also called our fund balance, which is also a way of saying like the savings account for the district, dropped. I think we all know that. We've been very open and transparent about it when I talk about what we're doing in the future, now and in the future for that. The fund balance, what goes into it? What constitutes that? Well, continuing a 20-plus year trend this last year, the district enrollment dropped. The only year that we've seen increased enrollment was when STEM opened up for the first year. However, we have seen over the last 2 years a much slower trend. There were some years when we had 100-plus students or 200-plus students leave the district. Well, atypical, that did happen. This last year was only 25. But when 25 students leave at $8,000 a piece, roughly, that's $200,000 that was in our budget that now has to come out. We've had increasing costs for utilities, retirement costs, and health insurance. This contributed to our challenge. Prior to the sinking fund, which even though it was elected in May, we didn't get the funds available to us until after summer collection, so we didn't get the money from the state or from the county until September, and we get a portion, we get half of it. So prior to May, so from January to May of this year, we were still pulling money off projects if we had to from our general fund. So from now on, however, facility repair costs will come from our sinking fund. So there were some costs that came out this year because we had to. To attract new families and interest in the district, the leadership team and the board strategically invested in a growth mindset that benefited students, employees, and facilities. There's no doubt those decisions were wise. Can't have the district grow if you're not investing. We replaced aged equipment and invested in curriculum and programming. Additionally, we needed to rely on and trust the financial data we were receiving. So we brought in Steve Edison as our new finance director. He's been on the job now, seems like a long time, but it's only been a short 4 months. And he's collaboratively developing an open, reliable, and transparent budgeting process involving a wide variety of district personnel. We're grateful for his ethical leadership, his positive outlook, and his financial expertise. As a result of our fund balance challenges, we put together as a leadership team under my direction what I'm calling a financial improvement plan. That is simply my nickname for it. I thought school improvement plan, financial improvement plan, or FIP. I'm currently drafting and continually am drafting and revising this document as we gain more information and data from the schools and from our own finance director. This FIP is my way of charting the path ahead for the way we will build and fund equity and maintain a healthy district financial balance. So the salient questions that I've been asking myself and posing to my leadership team are, what investments will grow the district, and how can we ensure a financially strong future for Comstock Public Schools? Can't imagine any two more important questions. Here are my answers. We are currently exploring 3 initiatives that ultimately may or may not be successful. I'm making no promises to you today, but I'm making promise that we're looking for every opportunity we can, and outside the box thinking is welcomed. If successful, either singularly or in combination, these proposals, which I'll describe to you now, will positively impact our district's growth and contribute to a stronger financial future. First, I learned as a new superintendent there's something called a shared time agreement. I had never heard of that before, so I asked more about it. One of the first meetings I attended in the summer when I first arrived was with Jill Ansell and Angelina Sabatino, and at that point Ken Greenwood, and to meet with a local school about a shared time agreement. I found out that you're able to cooperate with other districts that are local to you that are non-public. And then if certain conditions apply, and I'll just give you a brief overview, if we offer an elective that they offer, and the teacher that they have offering that elective is a highly qualified teacher under state law, we can help pay for that teacher, and then we collect the FTE from the students in those classrooms as if they were ours in our own rooms. So, can you expand shared time agreements? Or are we like, that's it, we're one and done, we have this one school? So I did some cold calling. I literally called schools in the area. Do you have a shared time agreement? Oh, you do? Okay, thank you. I wasn't trying to get anybody to break a shared time agreement with a neighboring district. I found 2 local schools that did not have shared time agreements. So we're exploring discussions with them about how does our scheduling, mostly at the high school and elementary school and middle school, how do those school programs connect with their school programs, and do they qualify with a highly qualified teacher? In the spring, we have both schools said they're very interested. In the spring, we'll go back, sit down, see where it matches, and then that will result in this process moving forward. So I have no idea whether it will work or to what degree, but we're looking for that as one of our solutions. We're also looking to increase enrollment at Compass by designating Compass as a regional alternative high school. While the first shared time agreement idea was mine, this one was not. This one came out of a number of circumstances. You can imagine me going to my colleagues, superintendents from the local districts, and saying, hey, I have a great idea. Send us your kids, and we'll collect the FTE and all the money. Thank you. That's not really what people do. So what am I talking about? The idea actually came from one of my colleagues. He was struggling with how to service alternative education kids. And I said, we have a wonderful program. Let's explore having your kids come and enroll or be somehow a part of our Compass program. This is in combination with a number of other factors happening in districts around us where they're looking at the success of our Compass program, which I've outlined today already, but there's way more that we can talk about Compass and what they do with kids. And so we're exploring the option, and I'm meeting this month with those superintendents, and I have a proposed agreement where we would share or bring some of their students from their schools that currently they have no way to service. And they say, well, your alternative, this is our school, this is what we offer. We don't really offer what you're looking for. Oh, but Compass does. In the past, that would have been, so sorry, Charlie. We don't have something, you don't fit in our system. Now we're opening the door for them as an option to send their kid to our program, and we would then reap the financial benefits from increased students at Compass. In the discussion phases, I make no promises about whether it will work, but we're pursuing it aggressively and positively and collaboratively. Also, the success of the Comstock K-12 Virtual Academy led by Pam Dudley, who is here today, thank you Pam, has been astonishing. Jay told me if there was a person that could be dedicated to that program, it could grow and expand, and that's what we're seeing. All the kids that, again, might not want to come to a traditional classroom for any number of reasons are now finding a place or a home in Comstock where before it wasn't quite clear if that's what we had to offer. So we're looking at expanding and promoting that program, bolstering it through advertisement, getting people in, people know about it, so they're referring kids to it. We've seen a growth there as well. The fourth option we're looking at is what I'm calling right-sizing. We will continue to examine programming to ensure that the public dollars entrusted to us as a district have the biggest and most effective impact. That can mean a number of things, and that's what we're always doing is, do we have the right people in the right places? And that's ultimately on my shoulders and Jill's to make sure those pieces are in the right place to service kids in the most effective and efficient, educationally and financially way possible. So, as I'm wrapping up, if you have any idea or an idea to help that you think I should consider, I'd personally appreciate, as your superintendent, an opportunity for you to share that with me over a cup of joe or coffee or whatever your preferred beverage is, maybe as long as it's not alcoholic. So during the day, a cup of coffee, and I can hear your thoughts. Because I've learned a long time ago and been humbled by the professionals I work with, where I think I've got a great idea. I toss it out, and before I know it, it's way better because of the expertise and passion of the people I work with. So I'm inviting you to think of ideas. What can we do to make Comstock the go-to district in our community, in our area? So, I want to sum up. The state of the district is good and getting better. We have challenges, but we are targeting resource and expertise to address them, and I'm fully confident with all of us collaborating supportively together, we will ultimately be successful. I want to thank the school board for their continual positive support of our ideas that come forth, the Colt Cabinet, all of the leaders of the leadership team, and in particular for today, Jason Hall for his help in getting the slideshow and me grounded in what I should say, Sue Duncan for her help in getting preparations, and Ryan Cousins with his work today as well to make this presentation visually attractive and appealing to you all. At least I hope it was. With that in mind, I want to thank you for coming and remind you it's a great day to be a Colt. Thank you.